driving across from New York to California, you might not know the entire road or the way that you need to go. You know the next 100 yards, the next 250 yards, the next mile. So it's just taking those steps, one step at a time, and doing them consistently.
I want to introduce everybody to Mr. Aaron Katz, who has been successfully investing in apartments as a deal sponsor, syndicator, GP, and also as a passive investor in other projects since 2012. He's participated in 15 projects as a sponsor GP, totaling about 3,000 units. So nothing to scoff at. 9 of these projects have gone full cycle, average return greater than 100%. You know, what we're all looking for, doubling our investors' money. And he's also participated as a LP in 18 other deals, 4,000 units. So his portfolio in just 14 years, over 7,000 units, built a great reputation of credibility, honesty, integrity, proven results, right? Been in the business 14 years, over 250 million in assets, 125 currently, and personally raised just about $40 million. Someone that I know a lot of people on this call will be able to learn a lot from. I'm really glad to have you. Aaron, if you can, briefly describe your business model and what you're doing right now.
Going back when I came into the business, I saw it as a lifestyle business. I've been a business owner. My background was business ownership, management, sales, marketing, something that lends itself very well to the apartment business. And when I came into the business in 2011 and sought to learn it, joined a mentoring and education program and moved in. And I saw it as a lifetime business. For me, it was going to be apartments today and apartments 20, 30 years from now. Jumped in full steam, and that's how I built it. And I also built it with lifestyle in mind. I saw it as a business where I could grow and build wealth, but also enjoy the life that I was living now. And I thought the way that the business was structured via syndication model would allow me to do that. And I think I've done that very successfully. As you said, I participated in 15 deals as a GP over 14 years, which is nothing to sneeze at, but it's also probably a lot of a slower track than maybe other GPs would have undertaken. Now, I think that served me very well over the years of 21, 22, when everybody was go. I put the brakes on a little bit and was very cautious about the deals I jumped into, but I've always been that way. Conservative underwriting, very careful in who I partner with, like to build the diligence on those partnerships even before building the diligence on the particular deals. So currently seek to do that. Back in when I first got into the business, Logan, all of my deals, I was the solo GP. My first 5 projects, which were between 90 and 340 units, I was the only GP on those deals. So you can imagine the amount of work I was doing and the hats I was wearing. And it wasn't until 2017 that I started to see, hey, I can partner with other people, delegate responsibilities. Maybe they're strong in areas that aren't my strongest suits and vice versa. And we can leverage each other and obviously have our investor communities combined to raise capital from. So I started to do some of those partnerships. And then in 2023, I decided to partner with Gabriel Kraft and his team at Kraft Capital. I think Gabe might even be on this call today. And we've built something, a foundation of something over the last few years. We've done a couple deals that I'm proud to say are performing extremely well, despite some of the remaining operational headwinds in the DFW market. One we acquired at 24, 195 unit 2 property portfolio that we're currently doing a cash out refinance on. And the other one, which we acquired in September of 23, an apartment community in Irving, Texas, which has virtually no delinquency and is outpacing all of our projections. And we thought we were going to have a dip in vacancy because we were going to be turning a lot of units. And instead, all of our residents are renewing at our performer rents without us even having to come in and do our unit turns. So we performed very well in the last 2 years, despite the headwinds. And I think a lot of people might be aware that a lot of those headwinds are beginning to go away. The oversupply problem, the demand's still here, the economic growth, the population growth, the job growth. But some of the things that we've been dealing with, these headwinds, are beginning to go away. I feel we're at the dawn of this next real estate cycle. And there's a lot of similarities. Excuse me, I have a little bit of a lingering cough, so I might have a couple coughing fits. But I see a lot of similarities between where we are right now and from where I came into the business after the Great Recession in 2011. And I think the opportunity is on the table.
Very cool. No worries on the cough. You sound great. So I'm curious, take me back to, you touched on it briefly, take me back to 2012. What kind of motivated you to say this multifamily commercial real estate thing, this isn't something I need to do?
I just learned the business and I thought that it was something that I could leverage. I could leverage my skill set from other businesses. I just had to learn the industry specific knowledge of multifamily. And given my background as a business owner, I was able to do that. And I saw it as a lifetime business. It offered everything that I wanted. It offered wealth creation, it offered appreciation, it offered cash flow, it offered the opportunity for capital gains, tax advantages, all of the benefits of multifamily, right? That all of us, hopefully on this call, are pretty aware of, all the things that make multifamily very favorable. And I figured, given my skill set and background, that the industry was going to be very suited and I was going to be able to come in. So I came in, but it was rungs of a ladder, Logan. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to do 5,000 units in the next 2 years. It was like, no, I'm going to do a great deal. My focus, yeah, sure, I'm a syndicator, I'm raising capital, but I think of myself as an operator slash syndicator first with the focus on operations. And I don't think that's ever been more important than the climate we're in right now. Operations is the key. It's not just raising capital, but it's as a GP, as part of a GP team on the front of the deal. Can I get in and execute the business plan when the margins are a little bit tighter and we have to be really drilled in and dialed down? I felt multifamily offered just everything that I wanted, but it was one deal at a time and it was rungs of a ladder. And I was going to be able to do another deal if this last deal was successful and performing well. And so that's really how I built. I think when Tim was promoting this, he talked about that I participated in $250 million worth of multifamily acquisitions. I've personally raised for those deals north of $40 million, but it was all one relationship and one conversation at a time, built over and what's turned into now, which is crazy when I look back, that it's a decade and a half. And I look back at the achievements and accomplishments, and it just blows my mind, just taking it all in totality. But it was really built one conversation, one deal, one property tour at a time. And I've just been very consistent in my messaging and consistent in my drive and dedication the entire time. And I've been able to build a terrific investor community. I've partnered now with Craft Capital, and they have also a terrific investor community. And obviously, the fund to fund model is something that we're very interested in because it's going to allow us to continue doing what we're doing and to scale. So I think there was some synergy. We're doing things on our own as far as private invitation only events with fund managers. We have one coming up here at the end of March in Dallas where we're bringing in 50 to 60 fund managers from across the country. And obviously, we're now connecting with you and your community. So there's that opportunity. And that's just going to allow us to grow and scale and do what we're doing here in DFW even more. Just an hour ago, myself and Gabe got off a seller interview where we're investing final on a north of $25 million asset that we're going to need to bring a significant amount of capital to. We wouldn't have maybe felt comfortable raising that amount of capital just 2 years ago, and it was more of a struggle. But we've seen the shift in the market. People are coming back. They see the opportunity on the table. And then they're beyond just our respective investor communities, we can obviously leverage the great fund model, which I know is what Hero is all about.
Absolutely. Yeah. I know you mentioned it might be maybe fewer deals than some operators, but if you look around, a lot of people that maybe started in 2012, not many of them are still here with us for many reasons.
Yeah.
Or if they are, they don't have the best reputation in some cases. I think it's a testament to, you mentioned like consistency, right? It's not always about, hey, how many deals can I do this year? How many units can I do? But how many good deals can I do? And how many investors can I actually return their money and build something the right way instead of rushing it, which is really important. Because in 2012, 2014, 15, it was very easy to just buy any deal because almost any deal would do good. So I think it's a testament to like your patience and making sure that you take down the right deals the right way, which obviously has worked out for you guys in the long run.
Sure. And using the best information you have available to you at any given time and incorporating all that data and that information. And sure, 2014, 2015, you could have bought about any deal and make money, but you didn't know that at the point of buying those deals in 2014, 2015. They had to make sense at that time. And there were deals that I walked away from cautiously in 2014 or 2015. Of course, in hindsight, I wished I'd bought everything in sight. But you don't know that. And you never know that, right? So at any given point in time, you're going to leverage, like when I'm looking at a deal, we have a very diligent process. That's how I'm working in conjunction with Craft Capital of involving third-party management company that's going to operate the property from the outset. It's not about going out and locking up a property and then finding a third-party management company to manage it. They're going to be the ones operating it on a day-to-day basis, working in conjunction with our asset management team. So I'm going to make sure that they're on board and they believe in it. And then we're talking to other vendors and tax people and insurance people, et cetera. So we're going to make sure that we don't pretend to be the smartest guy in the room in any one given area, right? But we're going to have people that are the smartest people in the room in their given area. And that's the way I think of being a general partner or an operator. It's our jobs to pull all the pieces of the puzzle together. We're the spoke, we're that hub at the center of the wheel. And then we have all these connections and people we talk to. And I really think being a GP operator and getting deals closed is being somebody that can put the pieces of the puzzle together and see the big picture. And I like to think that that's my strong suit, I think, is seeing the big picture. And then I partner with people and make sure that we have all the devils in the details. All the details are also in line as well. And that's how I've operated my entire career.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And it shows everything you just mentioned. It shows because anyone who knows you, anyone who's done business with you, like they're at this point pretty confident in their investment and partnering with you guys. Because obviously we know you guys and what you guys have done. It goes a long way, right? Doing things the right way. So I'm curious, how did you acquire these skills and the knowledge? And you mentioned mentorships. Did you have a mentor or a coach or a specific program you joined to accelerate your learning, or someone you had in your corner?
Yeah, when I first came into the business back in 2011, I joined the Lifestyles Unlimited program out of Houston, which obviously had the office here in DFW. And then from there, I got involved with Brad Sumrock and his program and was a member there for quite a while. Gained the foundational knowledge that I said I needed to learn when I came into the business. And then was able to obviously leverage those communities in terms of raising capital, et cetera. But that kind of shifted at a certain point where necessarily those programs were not going to be, well, at least maybe the latter, not the place to continue to raise capital from. You were going to continue to stay up to date and learn the current information in a mentorship capacity, but you really had to go leverage and build your own community. So that's always been what I've sought to do, even when I'm very into defining your criteria. So when I said I came into the business in 2011, gave myself 6 months just to learn before I even started looking for deals. And then in 2012, I'm defining my criteria. Okay, what type of deal am I going to buy? I'm going to find a 60 to 100 unit deal in DFW. It's going to be a C-class deal. So I began going to events and continuing to go to lifestyles events, but other events. And I met people and it was, hey, I'd like to sit down with you for an hour and get to lay out my vision for you. And let's see if there's some commonality there. And I would meet people in Starbucks or restaurants all over Dallas, Fort Worth. I must have had hundreds of these conversations even before I did my first deal, Logan. And it was, hey, let's get to know each other on a personal level first. And then let me tell you what I'm going to do. And then here, I'm going to find a deal just like this. And then when I do, at the end of the conversation, of course, I asked them, will I be able to call on you for potential investment? And just about everybody, of course, said yes. And then when I did go out and find my first deal, a 90-unit deal in Arlington, Texas, I'd already laid that foundation. I knew that the capital was going to be there right behind it. It was just a matter of calling on those relationships. And then every deal along the way has been that as I've continued to be in this industry now for almost a decade and a half since I first came in. It's been thousands and thousands of conversation, have an extensive database and investor community, and just consistent messaging. And obviously, most importantly, results, right? They can see the results I provided to passive investors. They can read testimonials. They can hear about what the experience was like with people that invested with me over the years and continue to do so on a repeat basis. And then it's just seeing that somebody can walk the walk, right? Everybody talks the talk. And when this market got flooded with people that kind of came in toward the end of the last real estate cycle, everybody was talking the talk. But then, like you said, Logan, it was proven out that unfortunately not everybody could walk the walk, right? And some investors suffered. I did a few deals. Like I said, I backed off. And we've had some operational headwinds and challenges with those deals. I won't lie. But we've also now given ourselves runway to where haven't lost any investor money. And I'm confident we're going to be able to get all of those deals out to the other side. And obviously, as I said, some of those headwinds and challenges are going away and things are going to be getting better for us in that regard. But that reset, that market reset, has created unbelievable buying opportunity right now for those that know what they're doing and are intelligently buying. And so we bought a couple deals over the last 2 years, underwrote over 200 deals to find those two. So we had other deals that brokers were wanting to hand to us because they knew we could perform and do and raise the capital, but they didn't meet our objectives. So we said no and walked away, even though the brokers were saying this deal is yours if you want it. I think that's always important to be able to walk away. But like I said, we're investing final now on another deal, and we aim to do at least two deals this year, ramping it up because we see the opportunity at the dawn of this cycle. 2 to 3 deals is our goal, but if we get one done in the first half of the year and another done in the second half of the year, I'll be more than happy. It's never been about fighting or taking on more than we can chew at any given time. It's about performing on that deal and doing what you say and then moving on to the next project.
Absolutely. Yeah. Having the clarity to know, hey, this is what we can do, not what we could do. So that's really important. But speaking of your thousands of investors and this big list you built, I know it wasn't always that way. So can you share an experience from your first capital raise or your first big raise you did and any challenges you faced and how you overcame them before you had all this kind of experience when it comes to raising money?
No, I think back to my third deal, which was a 200 unit deal. My first deal was a 90 unit deal. And then I went to a 116 unit deal. And then my third deal, I went up to a 200 unit deal. Now we could buy at a much lower basis back then. The capital raise wouldn't be as large as you would think on a 200 unit C class deal in DFW. Even today, at where we think pricing has hit the bottom here in this next real estate cycle, and we're going to be going up again from here. But even then, the bases were lower. This was $37,000 a door on a 200 unit in Duncanville. But even on that capital raise, I remember hitting a plateau, came out of the gate, reached out to my community and have plateaued. So then it was really getting back to what I'd done in the beginning to finalize that capital raise. And it was just having those one-on-one conversations, whether over the phone or in person. And really just, again, laying out with conviction and confidence and specificity what my business plan was going to be and what we were going to be doing here. And I think that's what people want to hear. They want to hear transparency. They want to hear honesty. They want to hear competence, enthusiasm, conviction, and that you know what you're going to do and that you're going to be able to do what you say you're going to do. So I think it just really, it comes back to that. I love jumping on something like this where I'm able to talk to a large crowd all at once, but there's nothing like that one-on-one communication. Virtual's great. I even prefer being an old school business guy to even interact in person with people, have an opportunity to shake their hand and look them in their real eyes, not just their virtual eyes on a computer screen. But I think that's it. And it's those relationships. And that's relationships with investors, but that's also relationships here in the DFW broker community. The reason why if I bid on any deal in DFW, I'm going to get that first round buy pretty much right into the best and final process. And when you're first getting into a competitive market like DFW, you just want the brokers to pay attention to you, to even consider you as a potential buyer for the deal. But then once you prove yourself and they've had the opportunity to transact with you and see that you're a fair guy. Sure, if a case needs to be made for something, you're going to fight for what's right, but you're reasonable. You never make an issue out of things that don't need to be made an issue out of. You're not a pain in the ass. You perform. I always try to be the buyer on the deals that I buy that I want to see when I'm a seller. And I've been a seller many times. I've had 9 full cycle deals. So it's just a matter of communications and those relationships. And I think just showing consistency with who you are and integrity over time. Because like I said, anybody can talk the talk on a short-term basis, but time always proves out who means what they say, does what they say they're going to do. And 15 years in the business, I think certainly is a good track record now. And I'm as excited, as enthusiastic right now as I've been in many years. I just think 2026 is going to be, for somebody on the outside that's never invested in multifamily, I think 2026 is going to be the year in this decade and in this next market cycle that everybody's going to look back on and be like, man, yeah, we came in 29 or 30 and that was good, but I really wish we'd come in back in 26, Aaron, when you were saying that was the best time to come in, when we're able to buy at these unbelievable bases. And I think it's the dawn of this next cycle. And I have the great partnership with Gabe Kraft and his team at Kraft Capital. It's the best partnership I've ever had among all my partnerships. And we just have complete synergy and traction and momentum in this DFW marketplace. So we're all boots on the ground. We're all here in DFW. We invest in the market we live in and we know the market. We're constantly visiting our properties. And I think that when operations are key like they are now with the underwriting margins that you need to be really drilled down. I think GPs and operators, if I have invested passively, and if I was going to today, I invested with sponsors that lived in other markets from where they were operating. But in today's climate, I would only passively invest with operators that lived in the market that they were operating in, because I think it's that important. Like I said, we're in addition to those relationships, we're looking to build relationships now with fund people that can legitimately bring us 500,000 and north $1 million to our deals coming in that LP fund position. That model is something that really wasn't around or talked about in the last cycle when I was doing all of those deals. My bread and butter was just raising capital from people 50, 75, 100, 200, 250, sometimes north of that, 1,000 at a time. And I'll still do that. And I still have those investors that are seeing the opportunity on the table that are reaching out to me and wanting to come back in that have maybe been sitting on the sidelines the last few years. But now the fund model is super exciting because it's going to allow us to do more deals and help more people.
Absolutely. Well, what have we been saying? What survive 25, thrive 26, I think is the popular saying now. And I know different people have different perspectives on it, but it's looking a lot different this year so far than it did, especially 2 years ago, but even last year. And so I do agree with you that people who are getting into multifamily, or even if you're doing self-storage or anything else right now, there's a unique opportunity, right? A lot of people are on the sidelines, and all that means is that there's more opportunity for the rest of us, right? But I do like how you mentioned during your 200 unit, your plateau, because anyone who is on this call knows, and if you haven't raised money before, this is something that you will run into. We only have so many family and friends. We only have so many people, and those people only invest like once a year, maybe once every 2 years. So knowing your limits, once you hit that plateau, right? Because everyone will hit, I don't care how many people. Eventually, you will run out of people that you already have a relationship with, and then you have to say, okay, let me reset. How can I get the rest of this money? I have to think outside the box. I can't only rely on people that are in my friends, family, my sphere of influence, I call it. I have to venture outside of that. I have to get creative. I have to find people that maybe I wasn't talking to before. I have to expand my avatar and do all these things. And obviously, you did all of those things the right way because you're still here. And so really cool perspective to see going from, and obviously 200 unit capital raise wasn't what it would be now.
Exactly.
I don't know if those basis points are coming back necessarily, but still a really cool way to look at it from where you were at 10, 12, 14 years ago to now. And I'm assuming that investor list of that plateau is a lot longer down the road, having to go outside of your network now that you guys have built this really healthy community of investors. Which I love that you use that word community, because I talk to people all the time. They're like, oh, I have this big list. You shouldn't have a list. You should have a community. It shouldn't just be a list of people that you call when you have a deal. It should be a community of people that you're building like an actual, it's right there in the word, a sense of community with, that interact with you, interact with each other, and they feel like part of something, because we're all human. They want to feel part of a thing, not just, oh, Aaron has a deal, I see his number. You know what I mean? There's a very real something to be said about not just treating people like people, but making them feel seen as investors. It goes a long way, I think. And it sounds like you guys do exactly that.
Yeah, and I'd love to speak to community because I've been doing here in DFW probably some of the most well-attended meetup events for the last 10 years and continue to do them on a by every other month basis. And now I've merged with my partners over at Craft Capital, and we're co-hosting and co-promoting our events. And I've done some other co-events in the past with other people, but primarily this has been my own meetup group, and I've been doing it here in DFW for over 10 years, free. We're bringing guest speakers and have great topics, and it's very informational and I think has a ton of value, and not looking at it as something to monetize. It's never been, if anything, I've come out of pocket for it. I've never monetized it. So I think when you talk about building community, I think people see that you're giving and without a direct expectation of receiving or trying to monetize it, just that you're being a giver. And I figure, hey, if I just continue to give to this community, to an industry that's been very good to me, then people are going to want to turn around and invest with me, and I'm going to be able to continue to do those deals. And I think that's been borne out. And now we're doing virtual events every other month because we have people in our communities and other people that are reaching out to us from all over the country that understand that DFW is a great market to be in, one of the tops in the country, but they're not local to DFW. but they want to invest in DFW multifamily. So we just did a virtual event last week, had a great crowd on, something like what you're doing here today. And we're going to be continuing to do those. I'd invite people in your community that see this, whether live here today or via a recording, to certainly reach out to me. I'll share some of my contact information before we go. And then one other thing that we do here for anybody that's local or that wants to come in is I said we acquired 2 apartment communities in the last 2 years. And on most
Mhm.
Fridays, even if it's only for one person, hopefully sometimes it's more, we do tours of those because those were deeper value add projects that we've come in and we took a couple of ugly ducklings and made them into beautiful swans. And they're both performing great. And like I said, one we're about to do a cash out refi on. The other one is outpacing all of our projections here, less than 6 months into the deal with virtually no delinquency. So we're boots on the ground and we want people that want to come see our properties, whether they're in Dallas for an event like Ultimate Partnering, maybe around that we'll do a tour because we'll have a lot of people coming in from that and they can come and tour our assets and they can see what we're actually doing from an operational perspective when turning these properties around. You talked about community, Logan. So there's a couple ways that we're really enhancing community just beyond those one-on-one conversations or, and of course, attending other local events, etc.
Absolutely. And I know that doing property tours and things are one way, but what are some ways that you really try to establish credibility with your investors beyond the couple of things you mentioned so far? Since I know for a lot of people, that's like their biggest issue. If I'm newer, why would these people trust me with their money? Especially if I haven't done a deal. So I think you can speak to it from both perspectives, both when you're new, but also when you're more experienced. Like, how do you really establish credibility with investors?
Direct communication, having calls, talking to them. If somebody goes to my website at Aaron Katz apartmentinvesting.com, there's a huge section there devoted to passive investor testimonials. These were unedited comments that I asked for from people that have invested with me over the years, and I didn't edit them. I just put them up, and I think they give a really good perspective because if I'm going to consider investing with somebody, I want to hear what was the experience like? What were the returns like? How did they perform? What's been your experience, sometimes over many years, of knowing and investing with this person? I don't think anything is more powerful than the testimony of somebody else that has already done what you're considering potentially doing. Because on beyond that, it's just me telling them, sure, they can also go to my website and see featured properties and real deals, and they're going to hear about results and performance. But I think that's it. It's you have a great conversation, you have a connection, you're able to convey to them what you're currently doing, and hopefully they buy in on that in a general sense and they see the opportunity that's on the table. But then they need to buy in on you. And I don't think there's any other way to buy in on you than having a successful track record and having lots of happy investors that have invested with you over the years. And that's where I get back, I think, to like a friend in the business is Mike Becker. I'm sure a lot of people know Mike Becker, and he's done big things in DFW multifamily at a scale that I haven't even sought to do because it wouldn't have suited the way I wanted to build my business from a lifestyle perspective. But he did a lot more deals than 15 deals in the decade plus that he's been in the business. That's how he built his business to be able to do. But Mike always talked about rungs of the ladder. And it really is that. It's just taking that one step at a time. And it's the rungs of the ladder. It's the next opportunity. It's going to build on the last opportunity. And you're only as successful as your last deal. And having that mentality that every deal is super important and you have to be focused and drilled in on that. And it's not just about this grand plan of 20 deals and 5,000 units in this period of time. That's never been my philosophy. It's right deals with the right people. And that's been the way that I operate and continue to operate. We're drilled down on this deal that we had a seller interview with Best and Final today. And I think the interview went well. Hopefully they'll be awarding us this deal here in the next day or two. We're underwriting and looking at other things, but we don't have 8 offers out there right now. We're drilled down and focused on this deal and getting the good word from the seller that they've awarded the deal to us. And it's focusing your time and energy on that which is in front of you. And I'm a big believer in that internal locus of control, focusing only on the things that I have control, because I really believe a lot of people out there in our society spend 95+% of their time putting their time and energy into things that they have no direct control over. And I couldn't think, to me, what's a greater waste of time? I want to put all my time and energy into those things over which I have control and can impact. So I know I tangented off there, but just a little of my kind of personal philosophy around things. See a couple hands raised. I don't know how the format goes here.
Yeah, we're gonna do Q&A here soon. So if you guys do have
Cool.
questions, you can put them in the chat or write them down somewhere so that you don't forget. So we'll definitely have some time for Q&A for Aaron, but or you can keep your hands raised, whatever the case is. In about 15, 20 minutes, we'll get into some Q&A because it looks like we will have quite a few questions, which is good.
I hope I can answer them all.
Yeah, we'll have plenty of time. But I do love that philosophy of why worry about things you can't control. And it sounds very easy to say, but we are human. So it's easier said than done to not to just focus on the things you can control. And it takes a lot of discipline, I think, to learn how to do that consistently and make sure that your focus is where it needs to be, right? Like with you guys, hey, let's focus on this deal. I hope you get awarded the deal. But if we don't, we can't really like dwell on it. Right? We have to move on to the next one. Same thing when you're raising money. An investor tells you no, whatever the case is, maybe you can do something differently next time, but let's not like pout about it. It's on to the next one, right? Because we don't have time to think of all the reasons why we weren't successful. We can reflect on that, but let's actually focus on what we can control, which is let's go talk to more investors. Let's go talk to more sellers. Let's go do more stuff that we know how to do, which sounds very simple. But like you said, there's a lot of people that don't think that way, maybe because it's easier to dwell than to focus. It's a lot more, it's less comfortable to have that mindset. So I really like that philosophy as well. But obviously we're establishing credibility with these investors. We have to find them first. So what are some of the top methods you guys use to find and attract LPs and passive investors in the first place?
It's meeting people at different events. Gabe tends to, my business partner, I think he's on here. Maybe he can raise his hand at some point and actually say hello. That would be great. So all of you would have the opportunity to meet him as well, maybe in the Q&A section. But it's attending events and it's having those one-on-one conversations. And I hate to keep getting back to that, Logan, but that is really the bread and butter. It's getting out there, it's interacting with people, and it's having those conversations. It's spending time on the phone, it's spending time on Zoom meetings and letting them know who you are and what you're doing. And who we are and what we're doing is very consistent with who I am and what I was doing 10 years ago, 14 years ago. And it's just continuing to do that. It's not multifamily today and something else tomorrow. It's multifamily yesterday. It's multifamily through the challenges of the last few years and multifamily into the future. Obviously, like any market, real estate is cyclical, and we've experienced a reset, and that created some pain and obviously some challenges, but it's also created unbelievable opportunity. When pricing was going sky high in 21 and 15 out of 15 factors had to go right for a deal to pencil, and then you had to get in and actually operate, and all those factors had to go right, backed off a little bit in terms of I saw it as maybe a scary time. And I'm glad I did, because I think a lot of my comrades in the business kind of blew past what I thought were some warning signs and just put the pedal to the metal. And unfortunately, some of them got into trouble, and maybe they're not here to now take advantage of the unbelievable opportunity that's on the table in 26, because they did blow past those warning signs, and maybe they lost the reputation, even if they had a ton of success in the past and they were good people and are good people. They blew past some of those warning signs, so they're not here to take advantage of the opportunities. It's just consistency, it's communication, it's taking each relationship one-on-one and building it. And then it's defining, what are we looking for in terms of relationships? We continue to build our LP communities. This fund model, we have a very specific capital requirement that we're looking at. It's people that can legitimately bring us north of 500K. And we're creating our own events to reach out to this people. We hosted, like I said, a dinner recently here in DFW for 25 to 30 people, invitation only. Came in from some here in the market, but many from other parts of the country. And then we're doing a big 2-day event, also invitation only, at the end of March, where we're going to be bringing in 50 to 60 of those people. Maybe through your network and other events that we're attending, we're going to be able to meet more that we can then invite. It's just continuing to leverage events and communities and meet people and have those conversations and continue to grow and win together.
Absolutely. And speaking of these events, I'm curious, when you guys have had the conversations, you've built the relationships, do you have different marketing strategies? Like, hey, we're ready to promote a deal right now, we're on a capital raise. Do you have these events, soft pitch people these events? Do you do a lot more like webinar pitching, where you do like case studies and different kinds of webinars? What's your primary way of getting your deal out to your list, both people that have invested with you and people who haven't? You guys have like specific marketing strategies you use when, hey, we're ready to promote right now?
Yeah, the last couple deals we launched as 506Bs, where
Mm.
obviously we can only market them to our private communities. We mainly did that because we have a lot of investing friends that are non accredited, and we wanted to have a window where they could come in. But obviously, then we would transition those projects to a 506C pretty quickly because that allows us to publicly advertise. But obviously, at that point, we can only bring in accredited investors. But that helps us because then we can obviously leverage our social media communities. People, by the way, I invite you to connect with me on Facebook and LinkedIn. I have a pretty big business brand and profile on both of those communities. You should be able to find me pretty easily there. And obviously you can connect and join with me at aaronkatzappartmentinvesting.com so I can keep you in the loop on everything that we're doing and or just you can see market updates and you can see what a active long time operator syndicator is doing here. And I think it'll be informative and educational for anybody. But it's all of those things, Logan. Sometimes it's in-person events. We had an in-person event where after we had moved it over to 506C, we featured our last deal. That's myself and my partner, Gabe. The great news, I guess, is that by the time we ended up having that event, we were already fully committed and we were fully
Mm.
committed in terms of our funding in 5 days on our last deal. It was a smaller raise. It was about a $4 million raise. But we went ahead and had the event anyway. We scheduled the event thinking, hey, we might still be in capital raising phase. So now we're going to have transitioned over a 506C. Let's have this event and continue to be able to hopefully raise the capital. But we were already fully funded. So then it was just pretty much informational and educational for everybody. And it was like, hey, get into our investor community because we fully funded when it was a 506B and we couldn't talk about it publicly. So only people in our investor community were able to come into that deal. So it's letting people know that happened last time. Get in with us in our communities so that we can market it to you as soon as we have that LOI. And then we're negotiating the PSA with the seller and we're already priming the pump to raise the capital for that deal. Now, our next
Mhm.
deal is going to be anywhere in the neighborhood. Hopefully, we land the one that we had the seller interview with today, and that would be more than 3 times the last raise. So, obviously, we're going to really need to leverage everything that we've built, but we're intending to scale up. The last deal was a test to see where are we here in this news cycle. We raised 8 million 2 years ago, and it was more of a challenge. The money's starting to come quicker because people are coming in that are new. There's people that maybe felt a little bit of the pain in the last few years, but they understand that's typical of a market shift and a real estate cycle, and they're not going to let a little bit of that pain keep them from the opportunity that's now on the table. So a lot of those people are coming back, and we're connecting with those people again, and we're seeing them come out to our in-person events. People that I haven't seen in many years, all of a sudden it's, hey, great to see you face to face again. People understand that it's a great time to come back in. So we're leveraging all those things.
Absolutely. Being subscribed in just a few days is never a bad problem to have. I'm sure your events are a lot less stressful when you can just say, let's just keep it educational, talk about our deals, but we don't need to necessarily raise from these people at this event. I do want to ask you some more about events because I do think they are, especially for newer capital raisers, they're underutilized for sure. Like, obviously, we're big in digital marketing, it's Tim's specialty, Facebook and LinkedIn, and that stuff is important. But when you guys first started doing like investor meetups and events, how did you really, aside from fund managers, which I think that one's pretty obvious, right? Hey, we have a deal. We'd love to build a relationship with you if you're a fund manager. But for LPs, when you guys first started like hosting your own events, what was the way you went about getting people to come, right? Whether it's the messaging or like was getting the venue hard? Did you just do it at a restaurant or a coffee shop to start? Like when you first started doing these meetups and stuff, how did you go about it, if that makes sense?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. It was probably 2016. At that point, I was still in the Sumrock community. So the meetup group that I built was under the Apartment Investor Mastery banner,
Mm.
co-organized at that time with Brad. But of course, I was doing all the work and it just, so I was able to leverage that though, right? That community and that
Mhm.
relationship at that time to instantly kind of piggyback on that, even though I'd been in the business already for going on 5 years and had some track record of my own success and was pretty well known, I think, even already within the DFW community. But as far as getting the venues, that is hard, Logan. It's number one, you go visit these places and they all either want a minimum guarantee. I'm bringing in 100, it might be 20 people. Hopefully it's 100. Many of my
Yep.
events ended up being standing room only, just like the one I met my business partner at, Gabe Kraft. In 2017, he came in. That was a standing room only one at a Mexican restaurant in Plano. He loves to tell that story. but you have to go. It's hard to find a venue to host events that they want a 5,000 or 2,000 minimum guarantee. I don't want to put my own money on the line, right? I'm not coming out of pocket. I'm not monetizing this event. Or if it was a restaurant, they want everybody to be on a set menu. I got 100 people over there. I want them to have a choice of the menu. So I did have it at a lot of restaurants. That was my first couple of avenues. And then I moved on when Quest IRA was here in Dallas. I ended up renting their space, coming out of pocket for each event. And that was a great classroom style space. And currently, we're partnered with our sponsor, Sayin Renovations and Construction, Ruben Ortiz and his team over there. Great CapEx guys and just super terrific guys in general that have a lot of the same philosophy I do, which is giving. And you figure if you just give, you're going to get back. And they give in that spirit and they allow us to come into their venue and use it free of charge here in the North Dallas area. And it's a great space. And they even bring in food and we share in some of the small costs associated with doing it, but they give a lot to make that happen, which leveraging the relationships. But yeah, in the beginning, you might start off in the back of some restaurant in a small room, and then you just grow it like that. And then you're consistent. You consistently hold events, you get a reputation, people start to talk, and then people want to come. And I go to all the DFW meetup events, and there's probably 3 or 4 that I think of that draw crowds along the lines of what myself and the Craft Capital events do. And then there's a lot of smaller ones, but everybody starts somewhere and you gotta stay after it. But of course, like anything else, a lot of people start strong. They do something for a little while and then they find something else, or that's the shiny object syndrome where they just fade away. There aren't many people that just stay consistent on brand and on messaging over a period of many years. And I think that I've been able to do that. So in terms of the live events, it's just continuing to do that over a 10-year period so that now I announce an event and I'm blessed that people are going to come out because it's something I've spent a lot of time building over the years, brick by brick.
Absolutely. Yeah, I like to touch on that because Tim talks about the importance of in-person events all the time, that building that sense of community. Obviously, we put on a few events a year, not just for investors, but other capital raisers and fund managers and stuff like that, because it is just far and above the easiest way to connect with people face to face. Zoom is great, but as soon as they hang up, like you don't really know where they're at. But when you're in person, you can spend a couple hours around somebody and see their body language and how they really react to what you say. It just hits a little different. But some people are maybe overwhelmed doing a meetup, like, oh, who am I to tell people to come to this event? And how do I organize it? And how do I make sure people are like engaged? And so it can be very overwhelming. And that's why I like to really harp on that, because for anyone listening, it doesn't have to be 100 people. It can be 5 people. Like I think Pace Morby tells the story about how he invited people to come meet him at a gas station to come look at houses, like on Instagram or something like that. Tim and Pace are really close. And so I've heard this story a few times. And I think like 50 people said that they would come on Instagram and like 2 people showed up. But sometimes that's all you need. You're going to start with 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people. You do a deal pitch webinar. That's virtual. And sometimes that's the same thing. You might have 5 investors show up the first time, but you have to start somewhere. And so it sounds like you guys have stayed really consistent.
And I would think here the Hero Alliance, right? If you're part of a group, you can leverage that for credibility too, right? You might be brand new to the business, but being part of a group like your group, people are going to have the opportunity to meet a lot of other people, and there's going to be a lot of success stories there in that room. So even if you're just brand new, who am I to have this event? I have no skins on the wall, but let me introduce you to somebody that I've met and they've done some things and they have credibility and I'm in the same group as them. You can have that opportunity to leverage and build some credibility out of the gate with some of those relationships of people you meet in groups like yours, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so I'm curious, we have these events, we do all this stuff, right? We raise the money. How do you cultivate and make sure that you maintain that long-term relationship after the check is written with your investors? Do you guys do direct mail or newsletters or more like digital kinds of marketing? You send them birthday cards on their birthday. Like, how do you make sure you stay top of mind once, they're 8 months into a deal and you have another one coming up, or they haven't invested in a year, maybe? Like, how do you guys kind of make sure you stay on their mind?
I'll speak for myself and my business partner, Gabe, and his team. They do their own stuff. They might be a little bit better than me in that regard, but I'm constantly communicating, right? I'm touching my community. I'm not spamming them. I'm not sending them 18 million things a month because I think then they just go blind and tune out to all of it. So I'm selective, but I'm touching them with market updates or a monthly update or just telling them about what I'm doing. That's to my community at large. But obviously then they've come into a deal and we're sending out monthly reports. We're having conversations with people if they have questions about the performance of the asset. I think at the end of the day, the number one thing is, are you doing what you said you're going to do? Is the deal performing? And then if the deal performs, they're going to be teed up and ready to go for your next one. Or if it's just coming out of the gate and it's some of the early returns, right? You can't really judge the complete performance. Like the last two deals we did, these ugly ducklings we've turned into beautiful swans. They can visit the property and they can see, wow, when I came to this property when I was considering investing, this was ugly. Those ugly communities, by the way, sometimes if you have the right vision, they look like money to me, right? Because I've done this enough times to where I have the vision to see what they're going to be. But then I think when you can actually show that to an investor and they can put their boots on a property and they see that you did what you say you're going to do and it's been pretty spectacular and then the results are behind it. I don't think anything is more attractive than that. So just touching people on a regular basis. I'm not sending out handwritten birthday cards or anything like that. I'm just putting my time and energy into focus into doing what I do, which is operations and making sure that the deals that I take on with my partners are actually successful. And then we're obviously looking for current new opportunities as well and making sure that those are the right deals. And if maybe I don't have the perfect system where everybody's getting a birthday card, some people might fall between the cracks. But I think if I put my time and energy and focus on doing those high level things and doing them well, then the people are going to be there. And that's
Yeah.
been the way that I operate my business.
Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. And so I know we've talked a lot about capital raising and we touched a little bit on what we think 26 will be like. Can you give me your predictions for the market at large and how you're gearing up to thrive 26, 27, and beyond?
Sure. We're primarily focused in that working class housing space. Our last couple of deals are 60s, 70s assets that required some CapEx. We're not afraid of those. I've done those many times throughout my career. It's something that we're doing extremely well. It allows us to play in a space right now where we're not dealing with institutional competition, at least for now. That could change, right, at some point, but that's part of the window of opportunity that we see right now. And I think when you stack up our resume against those we're competing with, I think myself and my partners look really strong. So I think we're going to be able to take down some of these assets. 24, 25, still, there were more operational headwinds. A lot of units were still coming online at that time. That's going away. That oversupply problem, starts are down, new completions coming online. It's virtually falling off a cliff if you look at the data. And by the way, if people want to go to my website at aaronkatzappartmentinvesting.com, I just posted up. They'll find it I think it's under podcast interviews or featured videos. I had asked the website people to change it to featured videos. It might still be under podcast interviews, but you'll find it. And I just put a new webinar up that my partner Gabe and I did last week. And we've sent it out to our communities where we go through a lot of market data and the reasons why now, why DFW, why 2026. And then I put up a video that we did last August where we brought in an economist from RealPage. And there's tons of data, graphs, information there that people will want to take a look at that we're not going to have time to obviously to dive into in detail here today on this Zoom. But I encourage everybody to go to aaronkatzapartmentinvesting.com, look around at featured properties, watch some of those interviews. Those are really good. There's a few other interviews up there where you can get to learn me a little bit better on a personal level, some of my interests, hobbies, and just who I am as a human being beyond just the multifamily side of me, because I like to live a pretty interesting life. And I think that's reflected on there. And then obviously, most importantly, where people can join my investor community, which just takes a few seconds to do. And really that commits somebody to nothing. It just means that I'm going to have the opportunity to keep in touch with them, to let them know about future events, to let them know about potential investment opportunities, whether that's coming in as simply an LP that's going to put 100K into a deal, or whether that's potentially somebody coming in a fund model kind of partnering alongside of us in our project. So I think 26 in terms of the workforce housing that we're looking at, I think we've hit the bottom of pricing for that type, and it's only going to go up from here. I certainly saw that in the last real estate cycle. Like I said, I think there's a lot of similarities for different reasons, but there's a lot of similarities to where we are now currently to where we were when I came into the industry back in 2011 with everything coming out of the Great Recession. And obviously, was able to really enjoy an almost 10-year ride up in the last real estate cycle. And I think we're going to have a great opportunity to ride this next real estate cycle up. And I think some of those operational headwinds, they're still going to be there, Logan, but they're reducing for reasons that we already talked about and more in the videos. If people want to dig in, we talk more about that. But what I'm really proud of is that when we were dealing with them more significantly in 24 and 25, in those two deals, we were able to go in and execute and succeed. So things should only continue to get better for us in an operational perspective. And we're already performing in what's been a challenging environment. Like I said, I am more excited here in 26 than I've been since the last real estate cycle. Even though we did a deal over the last 2 years, I really feel that this is the year and we are full guns blazing and all in right now and just looking to buy. And when I say buy, though, it's buy intelligently, right? You referenced earlier, anybody could have made money on deals they bought in 2014 and 2015. And I did buy deals at those time and made a ton of money on behalf of myself and my investors. Some of them more than tripled investor returns on their money. Absolute grand slam deals. You always hope for that, right? But you're always projecting using the best information you have at any given time and underwriting the deals conservatively. And that's exactly what we're doing right now. And hopefully with where bases go, though, we'll look back in a few years on those deals we underwrote conservatively and bases are going to end up exceeding our expectation. That'll be just gravy, right? Beyond our initial projections. I think that climate could be here to very much have underpromised and then have the opportunity to over deliver. But we're not counting on that. We're just counting on going and executing our plan, which is roughly doubling investor money, give or take, in a projected hold period of 5 years. Some might be shorter, like my average hold period on my full cycle deals is 3.5. Depending on how the market shifts and where it goes, we could see something like that or opportunities like that, or sometimes maybe hold it a little bit longer. We'll give ourselves that flexibility to do, but great opportunity on the table. And we are certainly going to take advantage of it. And we've been positioning ourselves for the last 3 years to do it, and we're ready to go.
Yeah. Under promise, over deliver. It's a good motto to live by. If you were able to perform these last couple of years, I think it will only get easier for you to do so in the next couple of years moving forward. A lot of people
Absolutely.
who, even if you only did one deal over the last couple of years, if you made money on it, chances are you probably have a pretty good idea of what you're doing. Nothing's guaranteed, but things are looking, despite all the craziness that's going on right now, things are, at least in our little bubble of real estate, looking good. And so I like that perspective on it. I'm curious, do you have any tools or resources you guys like to use, like syndication software, marketing software, anything like that, tools that you use pretty often that you recommend people jump on?
Yeah, I leverage Cashflow Portal and I work with them as my CRM. And that's how I keep in touch with my communities. Gabe, my business partner, also uses CFP, but I think he also leverages some other ones as well. That's the ones that I would tout. And by the way, I saw a lot of questions going by in the chat box that have been popping up. And I think Gabe, my business partner, has done a good job of kind of answering on my behalf. Because if I was trying to talk to you, Logan, and answer your questions and focus on giving coherent answers and also answer the people in the chat box at the same time, my mind wouldn't work like that. I'm very focused and drilled down on what I'm achieving. So hopefully Gabe has been able to help people out and let them know how they can connect with me, whether it's my website, Facebook, socials, or any of the communities where people will be able to connect with me and stay in touch.
Yeah. We only got a couple more things, then we're gonna jump into Q&A. Make sure we have some time for breakout sessions. We ran a little longer because I was late. My fault, not Tim's. You guys blame me. I do my Tim My impression here, but I was not doing my Tim My impression when I was late.
Well,
But
Tim was here in the beginning and then Tim went away. I saw Tim in the beginning and then
a resident interviewer these days. And yeah, I was just on a call. But also, this has been such a good interview. I wanted to keep asking questions as well. So I'm curious, what advice would you give to, which I think you're in a unique position to give, what advice would you give to someone who aspires to raise 20, 30, 40, 50 million, but doubts their ability to achieve that?
if you'd asked me at the beginning and said, "Hey, Aaron, do you feel like you could raise $40 million?" I'm going to admit that would have sounded intimidating to me. I didn't raise capital in my past businesses. It was generally a group of partners that were in an industry coming together and pooling our resources together and just bootstrapping and building something. So syndication and raising capital from people in this regard, it was brand new to me at the beginning. If I had thought about it like that, it might have been intimidating looking at it that way, Logan, thinking, wow, $40 million, $250 million in acquisitions collectively with my partners in different projects or projects I've done on my own. I think it's just biting off one thing at a time, and it's just doing the next thing. One of my former mentors used to say that he loved me because I was a great student, in that I would come to him and I would say, what is the next thing, the next one or two things that I need to do? And then he would tell me what those one or two things were. And then I would go out and I would do those one or two things. And then I would come back to him and I would say, okay, what is the next thing or the next one or two things I need to do? And then I would just go out and I would execute and do those new one or two things. I like to think about it. If you're driving across the country, say from like New York to California, you might not know the entire road or the way that you need to go. You know, the next 100 yards, the next 250 yards, the next mile. So it's just taking those steps one step at a time and doing them consistently. And it's being thoughtful, right? Things get thrown up along the way. Challenges come up that are unexpected. That's certainly been here in our world ever since COVID reared its head. And then we had an interest rate spike, the likes of which nobody would have ever foreseen happening. Just different challenges. And then there's challenges operationally, et cetera. I think it's just stepping back, being thoughtful, not being reactive, but being thoughtfully responsive. And I think if you can stay in that space and keep your mental headspace in a good area, then you'll have the opportunity to do anything and then respond to challenges as they do arise. So I hate to come back to the same thing I've probably said too many times in here, but it's just consistency. It's on point messaging. And I'm doing the same things that I was doing in 2012, 2013, and 14. I'm doing B and C class workforce housing in the multifamily space. Maybe to my detriment at times. Maybe I didn't look at some other things that people have reached out to me on, and they've done that many times over the years. But I was like, no, I'm going to stay down the fairway of what it is that I know. But I think in the end, people, they can respect that and they can see that this guy's committed to this path. And so I would say for anybody that's looking to go out and thinking about raising large amounts of capital, it's just bite off one little bit at a time. Don't let that total amount intimidate you, because it would if I was certainly just starting out. Talk to people one at a time and form relationships one at a time. And don't look at it as transactional. Look at it as relational. You're just building a relationship. You're just communicating who you are and what your vision is. And if there's alignment, it'll happen. And then with some people, there's not. Maybe not everybody will like you. And that's okay too.
Awesome. Very well put. Yeah, I like that. Not everyone will like you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Gonna move on. But we're gonna jump into Q&A. So if you guys do have questions, formulate those in your head. But you've been super generous with sharing your knowledge. I know, Gabe, you've put some links in the chat there. How can they support or give back, and what's the best way for them to connect?
I mentioned socials. Facebook and LinkedIn are primarily the ones that I use. You'll find me. I should look something like this in my picture and my cover photo. In fact, my cover photo on Facebook now is this event with your team here, Logan and Tim. I'll keep that up for at least throughout the day so people can easily find me. Also an active presence on LinkedIn. I mentioned my website where there's tons of great featured properties and video interviews and those terrific, the event Gabe and I put on last week with tons of great DFW relevant market info. I'm sure Gabe even maybe is thinking of some other things. He's throwing stuff up there. He's right on top of it. Follow those links to connect with me, and we would certainly love to have an opportunity to talk to you. If people that are watching this, whether it's live, and I believe you'll probably send this recording out to your entire community, if what I've said and the way that we operate and the way that we're building our business and our philosophy, if it resonates with you and we're somebody that you want to know, we would love to have a conversation with you. And if we're not the kind of operator that you want to partner with, then that's okay too. And I hope you are able to meet those people. And I'm all about the abundance mentality, and it's just want to give value and see success for everybody. And there's enough success out there for everybody to have it in this industry.
Fantastic. Yeah, I saw that Gabe put your LinkedIn down there. And then if you want to put the, invest with Aaron Katz Apartments, if you want to put that in there as well, or I can pull it up and throw it in there so people can.
Yeah. Thanks for all the support, Gabe. Appreciate it. Like I said, there would have been no way I would have been able to do both at once. So having my partner here do it, and hopefully many of you have had the opportunity to connect with Gabe as well, because Gabe, in addition to myself, I mean, he has his team at Craft Capital, and we work together with his entire team. He's a point guy of that team, hence it being Craft Capital Investments under his last name. But we kind of run point for our entire team. And if you get to know me, you want to get to know and talk with Gabe as well. And like me, Gabe can talk about real estate. So we're happy to do it.
Awesome. Very good. Really good interview. I really liked talking with you, Aaron.